The plasma round tore through Sergeant Silas Corman's left side just as he dove behind a smoking piece of collapsed hull plating. His vision blurred. He hit the dirt hard, armor scraping against jagged debris. Heat and pain surged up his flank like lightning in reverse. He clamped a hand over the wound, but it was too deep. Blood soaked his combat vest and began pooling beneath him. "Silas, status?" came the crackling voice of Lieutenant Relia over the comm. He tried to answer, but only managed a strained wheeze. His mouth tasted like copper and battery acid. Around him, the jungle of Beshari Prime burned with the fire of human and alien weapons, trees melting into charred stalks. The enemy, a coalition of insectoid Varnock and two-legged Takari, had caught their unit during a scouting sweep. They were supposed to be far from the front lines. "Silas, do you copy?" He fumbled for the comm bead on his collar, managed to tap it once. "Bit of a scratch," he coughed. There was silence on the other end for a moment. "Hold position, we're pulling you out." He didn't hear the rest. His head lolled back, and the stars above the smoke-swallowed sky began to spin. Then, blackness. When he came to, the world smelled wrong. Too clean, like a hospital trying to imitate a forest. He blinked slowly, eyes dry, and focused on the ceiling's smooth white-green panels glowing faintly. Something hummed softly nearby. He tried to move. A sharp, searing pain flared from his side, and he groaned. "Patient conscious," a voice said. It was unlike anything he'd heard. Not metallic, not organic like a chorus of reeds in the wind. He turned his head with great effort and saw the speaker. The alien was tall, maybe 7 feet, with elongated limbs covered in mottled gray-blue scales. Its face was a smooth oval with 3 black eyes and no visible mouth. Tubes ran from the back of its head into a harness strapped to its chest. It was wearing what looked like a surgeon's uniform, only it shimmered like liquid metal. "You are awake," the alien said. "Yeah," Silas rasped, his throat raw. "I'd like to file a complaint about your hospitality. You are in the medical wing aboard the Virexi cruiser Lethari. You sustained a critical injury on Beshari Prime. Your vitals were non-viable. You were not expected to survive." Silas blinked slowly. "Well, I'm stubborn. You were unconscious for 4 standard days. We had to perform multiple transfusions. Your body was in metabolic collapse." Another alien stepped into view. This one was shorter, bulkier, with deep red skin and a breathing apparatus over half its face. It carried something that looked like a tablet fused with a microscope. "He is not stable," the red alien said. "The human is experiencing neural disruption, possible trauma-induced delirium." Silas grinned weakly. "Delirious? I feel great, like I just did 50 push-ups and took a nap on a cloud made of knives." The blue-scaled medic turned to its colleague. "He is laughing." He does not comprehend the severity. The wound penetrated his abdominal wall and damaged multiple organs. He should be incapacitated. Silas chuckled, which turned into a hacking cough. Blood flecked his lips. "Stop laughing," the red one said. "I'm not laughing," Silas muttered. "I'm just enjoying how weird this is." The blue one leaned closer. "You are in pain." "Yeah, you are dying." "Not today," Silas whispered. "Got a poker game on Thursday." The 2 aliens turned to each other and exchanged a series of chirps and tones, too fast for human ears. The blue one eventually turned back. "We will stabilize you further. You will not move." "Wasn't planning on it," Silas mumbled, eyes fluttering closed. He drifted in and out of consciousness over the next 2 days. Each time he woke, he found new machines monitoring him, drawing blood, feeding fluids into his veins. The pain never left, but it ebbed and flowed like tides. The alien medics, who eventually introduced themselves as Vex and Darren, were meticulous and strangely fascinated by him. "He should be unresponsive," Darren said on the 3rd day. Vex was adjusting a scanner. "His pain receptors are still firing, yet he jokes. This is not logical." Silas opened one eye. "You guys ever heard of morphine?" "What is morphine?" Vex asked. A little hug in a vial. We gave you a compound that mimics your neurochemistry. It should induce sedation. Then your version's broken. Darren turned to Vex. He finds humor in suffering. He is experiencing delirium, Vex replied. This is not intentional. Silas raised a finger. No, this is just how we cope. We laugh so we don't scream. They stared at him for a long moment. By the 5th day, Silas was finally stable enough to remove from the automated life support, though he still couldn't sit up without feeling like his insides were being rearranged by a cement mixer. A tray of gelatin-like food sat untouched on the side table. Vex entered with a small device. We will begin physical assessment. Your species requires muscular activity for recovery, yes? Silas nodded slowly. You really don't get a lot of humans in here, do you? You are the first we have treated at this level of trauma. Silas managed a weak smile. Glad to be your test dummy. The assessment was painful. Vex guided him through minor movements, flexing fingers, raising one leg slightly. Every motion sent waves of pain through his side. Sweat poured down his face. He gritted his teeth and focused on the ceiling. You are resisting pain. Why? Vex asked. Because if I don't move, I'll rot in this bed. Rest is essential. So is getting home? Home is not possible for at least 27 standard rotations. Well, Silas sighed. Guess I'll be your guest a little longer. Later that evening, Darren returned with a portable imaging device. It hovered over his torso, scanning the injury site. Scar tissue forming. Internal damage is healing slowly. You will require time. How much time? Your physiology suggests a timeline of 6 to 8 Earth weeks before basic mobility is restored. Silas groaned. That's forever. Darren tilted its head. You expected less? I was hoping for a miracle. You are alive. That is miracle enough. Fair point. 2 weeks passed. Silas regained some strength, enough to sit up unassisted and eat food that didn't taste like rubber soaked in mint. The alien medics continued to monitor him, growing more perplexed by the day. He'd occasionally burst into laughter at random moments, then groan and clutch his side. You are in pain, Vex would say. I know. Then why do you produce vocal amusement? Because if I don't laugh, I'll cry, and I'm too dehydrated for that. This behavior is irrational. Welcome to humanity. One morning during a routine check, Vex noted Silas's blood pressure had spiked. You are agitated. I had a dream I was back on Earth, eating corn dogs at a fair. Woke up to find you poking my spleen. I was not poking, I was scanning. Same difference. Silas closed his eyes again, letting the scanner hum over his abdomen. The pain was dull now, manageable. But his body still felt hollow, like his organs were taking turns remembering how to function. You really thought I was going to die, huh? He asked quietly. Yes, Vex replied. Your blood loss was catastrophic. Your organ damage was extensive. Our models do not show recovery at this level without artificial augmentation. Well, we're stubborn. You were delirious. You believed you were unharmed. Not unharmed, he said. Just not ready to give up. Your resilience is statistically improbable. Story of my life. Silas looked at the ceiling again. The lights were dimmer today. He wondered if that was intentional. Has anyone called my squad? He asked. There is a communication embargo. Your unit has been relocated to a secure zone. I'd like to send a message. We will arrange that. He nodded. Thanks. Silas closed his eyes, trying to picture the jungle again, the moment the plasma struck him. He remembered the heat, the sudden punch of force. Then, nothing. The fact that he was here, alive, still didn't quite register. He drifted off again, the faint buzzing of equipment lulling him into an uneasy sleep. Vex remained beside him, watching the readings. He should not have survived, it said quietly to Darren, who now stood at the foot of the bed. He laughs in pain. He jokes in delirium. Is this normal? Vex replied, It is not normal. It is human. Darren studied the sleeping man. his breathing shallow but steady. Strange species. Indeed. Silas stirred slightly, muttering something incoherent. Then, faintly, he laughed in his sleep. The synthetic curtain peeled back with a soft hiss, and cool, recycled air drifted over Silas's skin. He stirred, blinking against the low ambient light. His chest ached with every breath, but it was the familiar ache of muscles trying to remember their job, not the sharp, searing agony of days past. Vitals within acceptable deviation, Vex announced, scanning a panel mounted to the wall. Cognitive functions appear stable. Silas shifted on the inclined cot, grimacing. Appreciate the confidence. You are disoriented? No, just annoyed I'm not dead enough to sleep through your check-ins. Vex angled the monitor slightly. You were unconscious for 2 1/3 planetary cycles. You now exhibit stable neural patterns. That's a poetic way of saying I woke up cranky. You have not consumed the nutrient gel? Vex added, gesturing toward a squat container near the bed, gray with a thin membrane over the top. Tasted like glue dipped in algae. I'm holding out hope for toast. You require caloric intake. Refusal is illogical. I'll chew on a power cell if it means not eating that again. Vex paused, recalibrated something on the device with a musical chirp, then looked at him again. Your sarcasm has increased in frequency. Maybe I'm getting my strength back. You are not. Silas chuckled under his breath, which triggered a dry cough. He turned his head away and spat into the basin. The fluid was tinged with rust red. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Still bleeding internally? No. The discoloration is a byproduct of cellular repair agents metabolizing. Your lung tissue was compromised. Residual symptoms will persist. He nodded slowly. Feels like I got kicked by a mule in a spacesuit. I am unfamiliar with that metric. Trust me, it's not a compliment. Vex leaned closer, the scanner retracting into a compartment on its forearm. Today, we test vertical orientation. Your muscle tone has degraded by 37%. Silas let his head loll back. Great. I've aged 20 years in my sleep. You will stand. That's optimistic. You will require external support. Now there's the realism I know and love. Vex extended a slim exoskeletal frame from a nearby wall recess. It clicked once, then unfolded into a ribcage-like brace with mechanical limbs and a harness. It hovered over the floor, whirring softly. This will compensate for your current instability. Silas eyed the machine. You sure it won't rip my spine out? It has not done so during previous use cases. Comforting. Vex guided the brace into position. Silas gritted his teeth as it hoisted him upright. His legs trembled instantly. The pressure in his abdomen flared, and he sucked air through clenched teeth. You are experiencing strain. No kidding. You may vocalize distress. I'd rather not give you the satisfaction. The brace adjusted incrementally, distributing weight away from his core. Silas took a shallow breath and raised his eyes. The room shifted slightly, then settled. He was upright for the first time in over 2 weeks. Well, he muttered, I'm halfway to dancing. Vex didn't respond. Instead, it walked a slow circuit around him, adjusting the harness tension at 3 points before retracting a sensor wand from the wall. Your posture is asymmetrical. Thoracic alignment is disrupted. Can't imagine why. Vex tapped at the wand. We will attempt ambulation. Silas blinked. Walking? Yes. Right now? You are upright. The next phase follows logically. He stared at the alien, then at his trembling knees. You guys call this therapy? It is functional restoration. Sure, functional. Let's go with that. Vex placed a hand just above his shoulder blade. Silas took one halting step. Pain bloomed across his lower torso, but he didn't collapse. One more step. Then another. The brace adjusted to each movement, offloading stress from his abdomen and spine. After 6 steps, sweat clung to his brow, and his breath came in ragged pulls. He stopped, panting. Progress is within projected parameters, Vex said. Silas leaned against a brace. If your parameter was barely alive, congrats. You have not collapsed. I might. You have not yet. He paused, then gave a raspy laugh. You really know how to coach a guy. That night, or at least during the artificial evening cycle, the room dimmed to a pale blue. Silas lay flat again, drained. The brace had returned to its recess, folded neatly. His muscles twitched from the effort. The curtain hissed once more, and a different alien entered. This one was taller than Vex, but narrower, with a lattice of chitin-like plates running down its elongated arms. Its eyes were recessed, glowing faintly green. I am Therad, it said. I will oversee your neurological assessments. Silas didn't move. Are you another one of Vex's friends? We belong to the same medical cohort, yes. You all come with names that sound like prescription drugs. Thera tilted its head. No. Shame? It approached silently, carrying a small device shaped like a tuning fork. Without asking, it pressed the end to Silas's temple. There was a soft chime and a brief pulse of heat. Neural conductivity appears adequate, Barrett said. Good to know my brain's still talking to itself. You did not exhibit conventional trauma responses during recovery. I'm unconventional. There is concern that your emotional regulation may be impaired. Silas narrowed his eyes. You think I'm losing it? You displayed inappropriate emotional responses to extreme physical injury, including laughter during critical hemorrhaging. I was delirious. Delirium typically presents with confusion and fear. You were coherent. I thought I was back in basic training. One of the guys once cracked 3 ribs and tried to finish a racquetball match. Theron paused. That does not clarify your behavior. It does for me. Therat removed the device and began noting something on a translucent pad. Your species' response patterns defy our models. Maybe your models are broken. More likely, they lack sufficient data. Then start collecting. We're full of surprises. Therat turned toward the door. You will sleep now. Tomorrow, we resume coordination testing. Looking forward to it. I doubt that. As the alien left, the room dimmed further. Silas stared at the ceiling, his limbs still tingling. The silence was thicker now. No whirring machines, no chirped conversations behind the curtain. Just him and the steady beat of his heart. Hours passed. At some point, a faint vibration rolled through the floor, a subtle tremor, barely noticeable. He sat up slightly, wincing. The curtain peeled back without warning. Vex stood there. There has been an incident, it said. Silas blinked. What kind of incident? One of our containment compartments failed. A pressure seal was compromised. We are venting atmosphere from Sector 9. Is that near here? No, but the casualty bay is in proximity. We are relocating patients. Silas pushed himself upright. What do you need me to do? You are not required to assist. Did you forget I used to haul wounded through fire zones with one arm and a broken foot? You are incapable of lifting more than 9 kilograms. Point me at the problem and let me fall in the right direction? Vex hesitated. Why? Because that's what we do. Within minutes, the brace was reattached and Silas was escorted into a wide corridor bathed in red emergency lighting. The air smelled faintly metallic, thinner than before. A trio of Virexi medics rushed past, carrying a sealed capsule between them. Containment breach is isolated, Vex informed him. But the evac protocols require manual override for certain doors. One of our injured units is trapped behind a secondary bulkhead. The auto-release is unresponsive. Where? 3 corridors east. I'll hold the wrench if you show me the bolt. They reached the door. It was a massive slab of alloy, sealed tight. Condensation bled down its surface. The panel beside it sparked intermittently. Vex placed a hand against the wall. The override is behind this panel. Silas leaned forward. What's the holdup? The mechanism requires 2 coordinated inputs. He looked around. Only one other medic was nearby, and it was mid-cycle on an evac capsule. All right, Silas said. You guide me. I'll be your second hand. You are not authorized. Neither is that sealed door. Vex opened the panel. Wires, tubing, and crystalline nodes pulsed inside. You will touch the blue contact when I count to 3. Got it. Vex placed its hand on the opposite node. 1, 2, 3. Silas jammed his fingers against the contact. A jolt surged up his arm. His vision went white for an instant. The door hissed, then groaned open. Inside, a Varaxi patient lay on a stretcher, unconscious. A fine mist filled the air, and a low alarm chirped in the background. Vex moved in swiftly, checking vitals. Silas leaned against the frame, panting. You are functional? Define functional. You remain conscious. Then yeah, I'm functional. They wheeled the patient out. Silas followed, his legs trembling but steady. Back in the ward an hour later, Vex adjusted the cot to recline. You proved useful. Silas sank into the bedding, eyes half-lidded. You sound surprised. I am. You'll get used to that. The artificial daylight cycle shifted to a soft gold, casting long shadows through the translucent wall panels. Silas sat on the edge of the bed, both feet planted on the floor, arms resting on his thighs as he caught his breath. Sweat beaded along his hairline. The brace still supported his midsection, but he no longer relied on it to stand. Your posture has improved, Vex noted, scanning from across the room. You maintain equilibrium without neural overstimulation. Feels like I've been balancing on a tightrope made of dental floss, Silas said, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. But I didn't fall on my face, so I'm calling it a win. You remain light deficient, Vex replied. Your skin tone has not returned to baseline pigmentation. That's the lighting. I'll look fine once I'm out from under this spaceship's idea of sunrise. You are aware this is a medical cruiser, not a ship designed for comfort. Oh, I noticed. The walls don't have much personality. Walls do not require personality. Spoken like someone who's never been stuck in one room for weeks. Vex adjusted the scanner, then paused. We will begin vestibular testing. Silas's eyebrows lifted. I'm guessing that's fancy talk for don't fall over while turning your head. Correct. Great. What happens if I do fall over? You may experience cranial impact. Good to know someone's keeping the optimism alive. Vex stepped aside, gesturing toward a circular track embedded in the floor that hadn't been used since Silas arrived. The ring lit up in segments, forming a slow, rotating pattern. You are to walk the perimeter while maintaining head rotation. Eyes must follow the ceiling markers. You want me to pace in a circle and look up the whole time? Yes. And this doesn't end with me face-planting into the wall? If you fall, the brace will absorb the majority of the kinetic energy. Majority. Not all. You will likely remain conscious. Perfect. Silas took a breath, adjusted the brace slightly, and stepped onto the ring. The floor warmed beneath him as the guidance lights moved ahead. He began walking, slowly at first. Each step sent a dull throb through his hips and lower back, but it was tolerable. He tilted his head back, watching the overhead markers glide past. About halfway around, the nausea started. Not sharp, but rising like bad turbulence. His stomach knotted. He swallowed, focused on the lights. You may stop if you... Nope, he muttered. I'm not letting you put this in a report that I couldn't walk in a circle without getting queasy. You overestimate the significance of our reports. Yeah, well, let me have my pride. He completed the rotation, paused, leaned against the wall, and exhaled through his nose. Head spinning like a merry-go-round full of regrets, he muttered. That is a non-clinical description. It's also accurate. Vex approached, scanning his face. You are pale. I'm always pale. I'm from Minnesota. That region is not documented in our system. It's cold. We don't tan so much as develop surface frostbite. Vex retracted the scanner. You may resume rest. Thank you for the privilege. That evening, the artificial lighting dimmed to a pale lavender. Silas lay back, hands folded across his chest. His muscles ached in ways that felt earned rather than imposed by trauma. A subtle hum filled the room, low frequency, almost like a heartbeat under the walls. He let it lull him. The curtain opened again. This time it wasn't Vex or Therat. The alien was shorter, with a shell-like carapace that shimmered like oil in water. It moved with a subtle twitch in each limb joint, like its entire body was slightly out of sync. "You are the human," it said, without ceremony. "Unless someone else crash-landed here with half their organs scrambled. I am Enlor. I am not medical staff." "I noticed. You're not carrying anything that beeps." Enlor stepped closer, head tilting in small increments. "I study behavioral anomalies across interspecies engagements. Let me guess. I'm the anomaly. The first human to survive a Beshari chest wound without induced stasis qualifies." "Lucky me." Enlor's mandibles clicked faintly. "Your defense mechanism humor has been catalogued. It is not understood. It's not meant to be. It's meant to survive the moment. You used it during blood loss." "Yeah, I didn't know where I was. I thought I was still being shot at." "You did not register fear." "I did. I just didn't show it." "Because I didn't want to die scared." Enlor was quiet for a moment. Then it moved to the side of the bed and placed a small object on the table. It resembled a flattened sphere, translucent and softly glowing. "This is a memory relay. It records emotional patterns. I request a brief imprint." "You want to record how I feel?" "Only during recovery. The data may assist in interpreting survival behaviors." Silas looked at the device. "Will it hurt?" "No." "All right, but only because I want someone to finally explain why I laughed while bleeding out." Enlor tapped the device. A soft pulse of warmth spread through the air. Silas felt a gentle tug somewhere behind his eyes, like a yawn in reverse. It passed within seconds. "Imprint complete," Enlor said. "Feel any wiser?" Confused. "Welcome to my head." Enlor took the device and left without another word. Silas exhaled slowly, then lay back again, watching the ceiling. The room was quiet for a long time. By the next sleep cycle, Silas had started walking without the brace. It stayed close, trailing him like a loyal pet in case of collapse. He didn't talk much that day, only grunted through the exercises and leaned against the walls more often than he'd admit. Later Vex returned, carrying a folded stack of fabric. "You are cleared for dressing." Silas blinked. "Clothes? Non-sterile garments? You no longer require isolation attire." He unfolded the fabric. It was a loose-fitting tunic and trousers, light gray with a faint iridescence. Silas ran a hand over the material. "Feels like it was made from alien pajamas." It was... He changed slowly, mindful of the tension across his midsection. The fabric was cool, but adjusted quickly to his body temperature. He looked at himself in the reflective panel near the bed. Thinner, obviously, paler, but standing, breathing. "I don't look like a corpse anymore." "You never did," Vex replied. "Thanks for lying." "I do not lie. You were injured, not expired." Silas sat back down, adjusting the fit of the tunic. "Any word from my unit?" "Your request for communication has been approved. A message terminal will be delivered at next cycle." He nodded once. "That's good." Vex remained silent for a moment. Then, "You were not expected to survive." "I know, but you did." "Yeah." He didn't smile, just exhaled, leaning his elbows on his knees. The silence between them felt different this time. Not clinical, not observational, just still. 3 days later, Silas stood unassisted in the corridor outside the ward. The walls were still the same sterile composite, still humming faintly with recycled power. But to him they felt more tolerable now, less confining. Vex stood beside him, holding a small data slate. "You have been cleared for release from medical care. Transport to the neutral exchange point begins in 1 hour." Silas nodded. "Guess I graduated." "You are the first human to recover from multi-system trauma without cryo-intervention aboard this ship. I wouldn't recommend it as a vacation package. You are also the first to request return to active status." "Is that a problem?" "No, it is simply unexpected." Silas turned to look at the corridor stretching ahead. You know, when I first woke up, I thought I was hallucinating. You all looked like nightmares. I thought I was dead. We are aware. But you fixed me, even though I was supposed to be just another casualty. You were not beyond repair. He looked at Vex. We only followed protocol. I'm still thanking you. Vex inclined its head, then stepped back. May your next injury be less severe. Silas laughed once, quietly. No promises. He walked down the corridor, each step deliberate, each breath steady. The ship around him pulsed with quiet purpose. Somewhere far away, his unit was waiting. And this time, he'd walk back to them,